Right, in my previous update, when I showed you what I'm working on in version 4 of Message Crawler, I left out something important. It was kind of a secret thing that I was working on, and I wasn't sure how it's going to work out, so I didn't share it with you. But right now, version 4 is done, so I want to tell you what is different in this version, as well as show you the super cool secret feature that I have been working on that is in this version that you can go and download and try right now. All right, so let's start with the least exciting features first. So some things I did is change how the export works, right? So we have our export folder and we have a checkbox to export RSMF by conversation, which is obviously going to be a field here. Or you can, if you uncheck it, it's going to export by doc ID, right? Not a surprise there. We're trying to go to more user-friendly naming of RSMF files. Also, I added so that the files, when they're being exported to, they don't just go into one folder. They get folded by 1,000 files per folder, and then a new folder starts this way. If you export in like hundreds of thousands of files, you don't overwhelm your computer when you're trying to browse it. And I have a stop button here. I know it's amazing that this time I have a stop button here. But yes, if you're running the export where it's not just scanning the table, but when it's writing to disk, you can stop that progress, right? So if you made a mistake, you don't have to kill it through Task Manager and so on. I know, version 4, right? I should have had it earlier, but this is like when iPhone came out with copy and paste, right? Whatever number of years later after Android. So better late than never. So there is a stop button. So those are the export features. So we're going to folder things. We're going to have ability to name them differently and ability to stop if you don't want to, if you see there's something wrong. All right. Next thing, Teams. Teams has been kind of hot right now, so I've been working on this a little bit. I added a feature to skip non-text message items. I see people have PSTs with a lot of junk in them, and it depends how the data was exported from Teams. If you check all the checkboxes properly, you can get nice and clean export, but if you don't, you can get a lot of extra stuff dumped in there. And what people get is they get these PST files that someone else exported. So there is no way for them to go back and redo the export, so they have to deal with it. So this option tries to identify non-text message data and ignore it. And if you uncheck it, it's going to tag it yes and no. So I suggest you actually don't check it and kind of preview it and then see what you get. And the way it determines whether it's a text message data or not is by having a special field called Skype Thread ID. If that field is present, it is considered to be text message data. If it's not, it's not. One other note here, this tool benefits from being online. So if your computers are offline, you may not get certain attachments because they're online, like Slack attachments, Trillion, and some other ones that need to be downloaded. So if your computers are offline, you'll be missing certain things which may or may not be a big deal to you. All right, and moving right along, we have support for Alchemsoft, which you've seen before, but there is an interesting problem I'm having. Is Teams as well as Alchemsoft use certain DLLs that don't really get packaged properly with the installer, and I had people telling me like, hey, I'm trying to use this, I'm getting COM errors. So in the next version of installer, I'm going to package up all the extra DLLs and then instructions which you have to do to make sure they get included. There are DLLs for this, DLLs for Teams. There's also an HTML parsing DLL, and I have no idea why they're missing. There's some kind of problem with installer that I can't figure out, but I'm sure I'll get to it. But until I figure it out, I'm just going to include them in the same zip file so you can drag and drop them and you'll be fine. All right, let's get to the most important, most exciting feature that I want to share with you. And they are wizards. Wait, Nikolai, you made wizards almost a year ago. You showed it to me. I know. But so here's the thing about wizards. I didn't really know what I wanted them to be, right? I wanted to be sort of a simplified interface where people can go next, and do a conversion, but just never really felt like there is much point to it. Yeah, it simplifies interface, but now I know what the wizards are always meant to be. So let me show you. So if I go here, I'm going to get to the wizard screen, and you'll see there are actually fewer of them, but that's okay. So we can go to like a Slack wizard, And what we'll do here is, rather than go into different tabs and running items, we adjust setting the configuration, right? So we can configure or we can browse. And so we can go through the tabs and we can configure our wizard and set up all our options here. And then once we go to run wizard, all these settings get summarized into one, a sort of a preset. And now this preset can be saved with a save button, or a new preset can be loaded and you can run the wizard. So the point of this is you can configure your conversion process, set everything up, save it, and then next time you're working on exactly the same type of data, you can just load it, run it, and you're done. And I feel like that's what the wizards always should have been. This is what they are now. So the idea is now we have these presets that we can configure through wizards. And of course, I added presets to the main user interface as well. So if we go here with the settings, we have load presets and save presets. So let me show you how they work. Let's say I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to apply some filter and I'm going to search for doc IDs, I don't know, something like that, right? So we're going to go doc ID less than 5 and we're going to sort it descending, right? So now it's all sorted backwards. And I will say save preset. Let's just put it here. And let's reopen the DAT file. And now we're back to normal. So now if I load a preset, and there's an ambulance, of course, but and it's going by. Okay, so if we load presets, you see how our filtering and sorting and everything else went back to normal. In fact, if I go and mess these things up and change all this, right, my fields and how I want to do it, maybe, I don't know, I had something like that, and then I go load preset again, you see, bam, everything goes back to how it was. So if you're working with a certain type of DAT file where you always have consistent fields and you want to let your team know what settings to use, you don't have to take screenshots or remember, you just save them as a preset and then you tell your team member to just use that preset. And the way you would use preset in the DAT file, in fact, is you would just save this, configure everything here and save it. And then you can go to wizard, DAT file, and then you can load it right here. Because if you don't load it, you see how like you're going to have tons of stuff to fill out, all your fields and all that stuff. It's like terribly inconvenient to do all this from here. You can, but if you do it from there and then you go to preset load, and we just load this guy, you see how all your fields are populated from what we configured here. So it makes it much easier to work with those presets. It's basically the same thing, right? And so you see how our filtering got automatically loaded, our sorting, so all that got loaded. But it gets even better. What you can do now is you can run this wizard from a command prompt, right? So you can now go messagecrawler.exe space, and then you can put Slack, DAT, or Cellebrite, space, and then in quotes, put the path of the preset. And what that'll do, it'll launch that wizard, it'll do all the work, save things out, all your results, and close it out. So it's completely unattended mode. You can set it up with a batch file, you can set it up to integrate with other applications. I mean, there are tons of options here. Your error logs will be saved, which of course you're going to have to check, right? Because if you run it and there is a problem, you don't want to just take the results of it. You want to take a peek in the error log, make sure it's all cool. But you can basically automate this and integrate it with other applications you have. And there's a checkbox over here. If you just want to use wizards, you can make this your startup screen. So it's not going to launch this complicated screen, it'll go to wizards right away. Anyway, that's it. This is enough for year 2020. I'm going to take a short break with new features. I will be back in 2021. We'll see what we can invent then. For now though, if you have bugs or anything like that, do let me know. I will take care of them right away. But as far as new features, we're going to take care of them next year. All right, thanks for checking it out. Download this version, try it out, let me know what you think. See you later.